I never knew my husband could hurt me like this. The first crack in the foundation of my life wasn't a sound, it was a silence. The kind of quiet that is so profound it has weight, a heavy, cold blanket smothering the warmth of a marriage I thought was built on granite. My name is Sarah, and I was 34 years old when I learned that the man who held my hand through 2 labors, who celebrated every promotion with cheap champagne, who planted a rose bush for every one of our anniversaries, was a stranger. The betrayal didn't arrive with a bang, with slammed doors or discovered lipstick on a collar. It slithered in on a Tuesday evening, disguised in the blue-white glow of a smartphone screen, a silent digital serpent that would poison everything I believed about love, partnership, and my own worth. It was the way he angled his phone away from me, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in his posture on the couch. For 20 years, he'd lounged beside me, his legs thrown over mine, the screen of his phone an open book. We'd watch silly videos together, read news articles aloud, and he'd show me memes that made him think of me. Then, one night, the phone tilted just so, his thumb scrolling with a new, furtive urgency. I didn't think much of it at first, stress from work maybe, a surprise he was planning. I was a woman who trusted her husband, a fact that now feels like the most profound naivete, a childhood fairy tale I'd forgotten to outgrow. I let the moment pass, burying my nose in my book, the words blurring into meaningless symbols as a tiny, cold seed of doubt was planted deep in my gut. The changes were incremental, a masterpiece of emotional erosion. He started working later, his explanations a little too detailed, layered with unnecessary specifics about traffic and a demanding new client named Allison. He said the name with a casual ease that was meant to disarm, but I heard the slightest hesitation, a tiny vocal tick that hadn't been there before. His scent changed when he came home. The familiar, comforting aroma of his aftershave, the one I'd bought him for a decade, was sometimes missing, replaced by the sterile, clean smell of a shower he'd taken somewhere else. My body knew before my mind would allow itself to accept the truth. My heart would hammer a frantic rhythm against my ribs when his car pulled into the driveway, a primal alarm system my conscious brain kept trying to disable. I'd kiss him hello, and my lips would feel numb, as if they already knew they were touching a lie. The real unraveling began on a rainy Thursday. He was supposed to be at a team-building retreat 2 hours away. A stomach bug had kept our youngest son, Leo, home from school, and I had rushed to the pharmacy for pediatric electrolytes. The rain was sheeting down, turning the world into a gray, watery blur. And that's when I saw it. His gray SUV, parked not in some hotel lot 2 hours away, but tucked discreetly behind a charming, expensive little bistro downtown called the Gilded Lily. A place he'd never mentioned, a place we'd never been. My blood turned to ice water. I pulled over, my hands shaking so violently I could barely put the car in park. I sat there watching the rain streak down my windshield, each drop feeling like a tear my eyes were too frozen to cry. I saw them then, emerging from the bistro, laughing under a single large umbrella. Him, my David, with his hand placed possessively on the small of her back. Her, a woman with long, honey-blonde hair and a laugh that seemed to cut through the drumming rain and slice right into my soul. She was young, maybe 28, and she looked at him with a kind of adoration I recognized, a reflection of my own gaze for the last 15 years. The world narrowed to that single, devastating image. The sound of my own breathing was deafening, a ragged, broken thing in the quiet car. This wasn't a suspicion anymore, it was a fact, a physical object lodged in my chest, sharp and heavy and cruel. I drove home on autopilot, the bag of medicine for Leo a mocking weight on the passenger seat. I walked back into my house, the house we'd painted together, the house where we'd raised our boys, and it felt alien. Every photograph on the wall was a lie. Every piece of furniture we'd chosen together was a prop in a play I hadn't known I was acting in. I put Leo to bed, my hands stroking his feverish forehead, my voice a calm, soothing melody that was a complete and utter fabrication. I was shattering inside, a crystal vase thrown against a wall, fracturing into a million irreparable pieces, while the outside remained deceptively whole. That night, when David came home, he smelled of rain and that unfamiliar, sterile soap. He kissed my cheek and spun a tale about the retreat being cut short, about the long, boring drive back. I listened, my face a placid mask, and I saw the man I loved not as my husband, but as a performer. I saw the tiny tells, the way his eyes flickered to the left when he lied about the traffic, the way he over-gesticulated with his fork as he described a presentation I knew for a fact had never happened. I had become an archaeologist of my own ruin, sifting through the rubble of our life together, finding every shard of evidence that pointed to the cataclysm. The following weeks were a study in surreal agony. I moved through my life like a ghost. I made school lunches, I attended parent-teacher conferences, I made love to my husband, and it was the most profound violation, my body screaming in silent protest while my mind floated somewhere near the ceiling, a detached observer to the desecration of my marriage bed. I started digging. It wasn't about confirmation anymore. It was about comprehension. I needed to understand the scale of the lie. I needed to know how deep the rot went. I accessed our old phone bill online, a password he'd forgotten I knew. There it was, a phone number, the same one, appearing dozens of times a day, calls that lasted for hours, often late into the night when he claimed to be working in his home office. Text message records showed thousands of exchanges. Thousands! This wasn't a fleeting affair, a drunken mistake. This was a second life. I created a fake social media profile, a generic, friendly woman interested in local hiking groups. It took me less than 10 minutes to find her. Maya. Her name was Maya. Her profile was a curated gallery of a beautiful, exciting life. And there, nestled in the background of a photo from a friend's birthday party 2 months prior, was my husband's hand, resting on her shoulder, his distinctive watch, the one I'd saved for months to buy him, glinting in the light. They had been together for at least 6 months. 6 months of family vacations, of birthday celebrations, of him holding me while I cried about my father's failing health, all while he was living this parallel existence. The duality of it was what broke me. The sheer, audacious compartmentalization required to be a devoted father and a faithless husband, to kiss me goodbye in the morning and then text her sweet nothings from the car. The pain was no longer a sharp, stabbing thing. It had mutated into a constant, dull, all-consuming ache. It was the grief of a death, but worse because the corpse was still walking and talking and lying to my face. I lost weight. My hair started to thin. I'd look in the mirror and not recognize the hollow-eyed woman staring back. My friends asked if I was feeling okay, their voices laced with concern. I'd smile, a brittle, fragile thing, and blame it on stress, on the kids, on anything but the truth that was eating me alive from the inside out. David noticed the change, of course. He became overly attentive, buying me flowers, suggesting date nights. His guilt was a perfume he doused himself in, but I could still smell the stench of betrayal beneath it. He thought my distance was sadness, a low-grade depression. He never once suspected that I knew. That was his second greatest miscalculation. His first was thinking he could get away with it. The idea of revenge didn't come to me in a fiery burst of anger. It was a slow, cold dawn. It began not as a desire to hurt him, but as a desperate need to reclaim my power, my voice, my very self. I was tired of being the victim in my own story, the clueless wife, the punchline. I refused to let his betrayal be the defining event of my life. I would not be the woman who was broken by this. I would be the woman who remade herself from the ashes. And part of that remaking required justice. Not the messy, dramatic kind you see in movies. I didn't want to key his car or burn his clothes. I wanted a revenge that was calm, precise, and utterly devastating. A revenge that wouldn't land me in jail, but would leave him with nothing, just as he had left me. My plan began with finances. I was an accountant by trade, though I'd been working part-time since the boys were born. The numbers had always made sense to me. They were orderly, truthful. David, the creative, had always happily handed over the reins of our finances to me. He trusted me implicitly. Another of his miscalculations. I spent weeks conducting a forensic audit of our life. I discovered a secret savings account he'd opened a year ago, one he'd been slowly funneling money into from his bonuses. Money for his future with her, I realized. Money that was meant to fund his escape from me, from our children. I discovered a credit card I never knew existed, with statements sent to a P.O. box. It was filled with charges for hotel rooms, expensive dinners, jewelry, a diamond bracelet he'd bought her for her birthday. He'd bought me a sweater. The cold fury that filled me was a clarifying force. It sharpened my mind and steadied my hands. I opened my own separate bank account, and I began a methodical, untraceable transfer of our joint assets. I wasn't stealing, I was securing. I was taking back what was half mine, and given his secret accounts, arguably more. I consulted a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Evelyn, who listened to my story, looked at my evidence, and gave me a small, grim smile. "We're going to bury him," she said. And for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of something other than despair. It felt like hope, but a dark, determined kind. I took a freelance accounting job, telling David it was to help pay for the boys' summer camp. In reality, it was to rebuild my professional confidence and pad my new secret account. I started waking up early to run, pushing my body until it screamed, not to punish it, but to reclaim it. I was making it strong again, making it mine. I started seeing a therapist, unburdening myself in that safe, quiet room, learning how to separate the man I thought David was from the man he had revealed himself to be. I was building my lifeboat while still standing on the deck of the sinking ship, smiling at the captain as he unknowingly steered us toward the iceberg. The final piece of my plan was the most dangerous and the most necessary. I needed to know he would have no one to run to when it all fell apart. I needed Maya to see him for what he truly was. Using my fake profile, I struck up a casual, friendly online conversation with her. It was easy. She was vapid, obsessed with her image, and loved to talk about herself. I learned everything about her, her hopes, her dreams, her profound belief that David was going to leave his cold, emotionally distant wife for her. She was saving for a condo, she told my fake persona, because David was going to be free soon and they were going to start their life together. He had told her we were already in marriage counseling, that it was failing, that I was unstable. The layers of his deceit were breathtaking.
I bided my time. I waited for the perfect moment. It came on the eve of our 15th wedding anniversary. David had planned a romantic weekend away at a secluded cabin, the same one we'd gone to on our honeymoon. The cruelty of his choice was a masterpiece. He thought it would be the perfect place to finally break the news to me, to ask for a divorce, to play the tortured soul who had fallen out of love. What he didn't know was that I knew. I knew everything. The day before we were set to leave, I set my plan in motion. I transferred the last of the funds, I signed the retainer with my lawyer, and then I sent a single, carefully crafted email from my fake account to Maya. It contained a link. The link led to a private, password-protected video I had made. The password was David's birthday. The video was just 5 minutes long. It was a montage set to a song we used to love, a song he'd probably forgotten. It opened with photos of our wedding, my face radiant, his beaming with genuine love. It cut to videos of him holding our newborns, tears of joy streaming down his face. It showed clips of Christmases, of lazy Sundays, of him teaching our son to ride a bike. It ended with a recent, silent clip I had taken on my phone of him reading a bedtime story to our boys just a week ago, his voice a soft, loving murmur. The final image was a still frame of our family, whole and happy, just a year ago. Then text appeared on the screen, white letters on a black background. He is still this man. He is still their father. He is still my husband. The man you know is the lie.
I didn't send any explanation. I didn't need to. The truth, presented so starkly, so lovingly, was a weapon more powerful than any accusation. It showed her the real cost of her fantasy. It showed her the family, the history, the love she was so casually helping to destroy. It made her an accomplice, not a prize. The next morning, David was buzzing with a nervous energy. He packed the car, humming, completely oblivious to the tsunami that was about to hit him. We drove toward the cabin in near silence. My phone, face up in my lap, remained dark. I was calm. I had done all I could do. The rest was up to the universe. We were an hour into the drive when his phone, connected to the car's Bluetooth, erupted. It was Maya. Her name flashed on the dashboard screen for a split second before he fumbled frantically to reject the call. His face was pale. "Wrong number," he mumbled. I said nothing. I just stared out the window at the passing trees. His phone rang again and again. Then a text message came through, its preview visible on the screen. "You lied to me. You have children. You're still with her. You're a monster." The car filled with a suffocating silence. David's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. He started to speak, to stammer some excuse, but I held up a hand. "Pull over, David." "Sarah, I can explain." "Pull the car over." He did, swerving onto a gravel lookout point overlooking a vast green valley. The engine ticked as it cooled. He turned to me, his face a mask of panic and shame. And then the story tumbled out, a pathetic, cliched tale of a midlife crisis, of feeling unseen, of her meaning nothing. It was all a terrible mistake. I listened, my face impassive. When he was finished, spent and crying, I spoke. My voice was quiet, but it was steel. "I know about the secret savings account, David, the one with $42,000 in it. I know about the credit card and the P.O. box. I know you took her to the Cayman Islands on a business trip in March. I know you promised her you would leave me after our anniversary weekend. I have copies of every text, every transaction, every hotel receipt. My lawyer has them too." The color drained from his face completely. He looked at me not as his wife, but as a stranger, a formidable opponent he had never seen coming. The shock in his eyes was my first taste of true satisfaction. It was clean and cold and powerful. "The boys and I will be staying in the house. You will be moving out. Today. Our anniversary weekend is canceled. You can use the time to find an apartment. My lawyer, Evelyn, will be in touch with the divorce papers. Given the evidence of your financial infidelity and the length and nature of your affair, she is confident the judge will award me primary custody, the house, and a significant majority of our assets, including the money you tried to hide. If you fight me on this, I will release every single piece of evidence to your mother, your father, your boss, and everyone at your company. I will make sure the world sees the man you really are." I unbuckled my seatbelt. "I'll call an Uber. You can go explain to Maya why your future together isn't going to happen." I got out of the car. The mountain air was crisp and clean, scented with pine. It felt like my first real breath in months. I stood there, looking out at the vast, beautiful world, a world I was about to step back into, on my own terms. I heard him sobbing in the car, a broken, pathetic sound. There was no rage left in me, no hatred. There was only a vast, quiet peace. The revenge was complete. It wasn't about hurting him, it was about freeing myself. I had taken back my story. I had taken back my power. The divorce was finalized 8 months later. It went exactly as my lawyer predicted. David was so shell-shocked and terrified of public exposure that he agreed to every one of my terms. He lives in a small apartment now, He sees the boys on weekends, and they have a relationship with him, but it's strained. They know what he did. I told them an age-appropriate version of the truth because I refused to be the villain in their story too. He tried to contact me several times, full of apologies and regrets, but I never responded. My silence was the final, impenetrable wall. He was no longer my concern. It's been 2 years now. The hollow space he left in my life has slowly, painstakingly been filled with new things. I started my own accounting firm, and it's thriving. I bought a new bed, one that is only mine. I travel with my girlfriends. I go on dates sometimes with men who are kind and interesting, and who see the strength in my eyes, not the scars. The pain is a memory, a ghost that visits less and less. It doesn't control me anymore. I am not the woman I was before the betrayal. That woman was trusting, perhaps too trusting, and I am not the woman I was during the betrayal. That woman was shattered and surviving. I am someone new, someone forged in fire, stronger at the broken places. I learned that my husband could hurt me in a way I never thought possible. But more importantly, I learned that I could survive a hurt I never thought I could endure. I learned that I am the love I was waiting for. My story didn't end with his betrayal. It began again with my revenge, a revenge that was simply another word for my rebirth. If my story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe. You have no idea how much your support means to me.